Alright, I'm gonna do a quick dive back into Joshua. We have more conclusive numbers at this point. As you can see, I put about the same amount of investment into both these characters. They both are pretty well maxed out on skills. I actually do use Joshua, even though I'm very disappointed with how much value is paid, is walking back. He has a use. I'll get into that once I cover this. So, rank 30, I'm, that's pretty much where I expect to be. 20 to 30, that's how much my account has investment in it. Like, this is pretty average. If I wanted to get higher, I can basically get all the way up to 20 by just rerunning the fight and hoping that her trait procs more often. I did one run, called it good. Same thing for Joshua. I'm not too concerned about pushing for rank 20 over rank 30. If I go beyond rank 30, I might push back into top 30. I don't even know if the rewards apply to top 30. They usually do. So I try to stay in top 30 if I can. But you can see on her, I don't have Susano. That's a huge factor of this contest. 75k caps. Basically free. Oh, it takes 200 MP from all your characters. Doesn't matter. It's just 75k caps for 40 seconds. If we're looking at the damage difference in these people, you're looking at like a 10% increase from her paid. And that's like the conservative estimate of that's the maximum you're going to hopefully get. You could get more from it. Her paid is hard to quantify because it gives you a decent amount of strength, and that means that you need less strength to reach caps. And she's a character that actually does need strength to reach caps, so yeah, it is still valuable. 10% final damage. There's not a lot of competitive alternatives, but she's not locked to it. Like, there are other things you can use. Now, this guy, I am way down here. This is Susano being times 2 because dual wield. So, 150k cap from your arc skill. And then it also gives you like 6k cap on top of that. So, it's a lot. If we go to the top 30, we're gonna get an error. Perfect timing on that. There we go. So, I kind of just disqualify these top people because they have things that other people are never going to have. They have everything you could possibly ever need and the perfect support team. We'll go down to here. These people are relying on the paid and Susano as like the big value, and they probably do have more SC and a couple more cap skills. But like those are the two most impactful factors. They're far and away what I could even hope to get with Susano. Even if we go all the way down to 30, this guy is still above me. Again, Susano is very powerful. I get 20k caps for a little longer. They get 75k caps for almost as long as my 20k caps. Yeah. But I can, with Susano, I mapped out my damage, and based on the damage I dealt, just from Susano being active and maybe a little better luck on Fatal Strike, I'm getting 600 million as the high end of where I could even be. So I'm not even in the top 30 with Susano, and I don't know how much further down into the top 30 because these guys are sometimes very close, sometimes a little further. It could be 50 more people that are above 200. It could be one more person that's above 200 or above 600. Sorry. Uh, Not in the top 30. Don't know how far down I am. That's just Susano, though. Everything up here is most likely also using the paid. Some of them might not be using Susano, and they might just be using the paid. But I'm willing to bet that every single one of these players has his paid weapon. Whether or not they have the accessory, that's a very minor improvement. It's more defensive utility. It has some caps, so it's more damage, but the evasion is the main thing that's unique for it, and realistically, the sword's the only thing you need. I'm willing to bet every single one of these people has the paid sword. I wish you could see what they're using in this event. That would be nice to just be able to, click on them and see what they took to the fight. I know they did that in FFBE, and it was always nice to be able to just click on a team, see what team they had, and I want to say you could click on the characters and see what they had gear wise. And they did that so that you could report cheaters. You can click on someone, you see that they have like a full team of low tier units, and all of them are equipped with shop gear or no gear, and they're dealing billions of damage. Then obviously it's a cheater. I don't know why they opt to not allow you to see the clear characters. You used to be able to see the clear characters in Tower as well. It's a nice feature to be able to see what you could only see the leading party member in Tower, and then they changed it to be the new system where it's your favorite character instead of anything to do with your party character. Before that, they changed it to make it so that it was your main character and your support, I believe. Yeah, they keep distancing the characters that are actually used in content further and further. I guess people wanted to show the icon of the character they like. I prefer to see icons of characters that are valuable, so I can kind of guesstimate how a character's perform. The Tower is not a very good estimate for that anymore, but you get my point. Kind of a derailed conversation there. Totally different. Back to the point. Paid being the main factor that's pushing these people up in the top 30. And then when we get up to here, maybe here, I'm not sure how these guys basically got 100 million damage from somewhere, pulled it out of their pocket. And then these guys got a further 100 million damage from somewhere, pulled it out of their pocket. Quite a big leap. I'm going to just say these guys are using like the min-maxed Susano paid and similar high tier builds, and they're just getting really lucky on Fatal Strikes. And these guys are getting less lucky on Fatal Strikes, but also still using the same builds mostly. Very similar builds. So if we use this as the achievable high-end roll from the impact of the paid, if I'm going to 600 mil on like a very generous estimate of Susano, 250 million above that, 40-50% more total damage just from having the paid and being able to Leroy it until you get very good fatal rolls. It's a lot. It is a lot for the paid. And here's the problem. I'm going to get into where he has value now. Like, even if we drop down here, you're still looking at 30 to 40% value just from the paid, which again, it's too much. There's nothing else in the game that can come close to replacing it. It has to be a Dark Sword. We don't have that many of those. Nothing has the Fatal Strike chance on it. And if we ever get something with the Fatal Strike chance, is it going to be a Dark Sword? Probably not. It's probably going to be an Ice Fist, if I am correct in remembering which character has Fatal Strike before this point. It was a permanent villain's banner character. But where you can use this guy, even with that massive cut to potential damage, and that's a lot. The thing about him, here's kind of the best two weapons you're going to use for the foreseeable future on him. It's a little disappointing, but this is pretty much what you have to use. You can use other dark weapons, but this is the upper limit. It's not great, but he has a metric ton of strength for free. In battle, I get to 30k strength. And strength isn't valuable in most content, but in something like this, where if you don't have the Stone Collab unit that can remove stats, I don't know if he can even remove them here because you have to have him to be able to test that. And they made it so some bosses can't have their stats taken away, but most bosses can. The handful of bosses that they just randomly said, you can't use this one character we released that we regret releasing on this boss. If they ever do a rerun, get that character. He is the only character in the entire game who can take away enemy buffs. This boss, when it's at 30%, buffs its defense and mind a metric ton. I don't know how much it buffs it. 500%. It's probably not that much, but it's so much that you go from easily capping at the start of the fight to dealing like with her. She's the weakness of the boss. She doesn't have great strength, but at the start of the fight, she's capping on her normal attacks, non crits. After that buff, she's not even capping on her crits. Her crits are doing like 70k damage instead of 170k damage. And at the start of the fight, she's doing 170k with non crits. And I have her really built for strength to try to compensate, and even then, it's not enough. He still can't. He still can't cap. Like the amount of defense this thing gains at that last 30% is excessive, and that's with a 50% break from Lulu. Even though he cannot cap at that point, he still does better. She's doing 70k on a critical weak attack after the boss is already heavily buffed. When the boss is heavily buffed on him, he's doing 70 to 100k on crits with dual wield. So double the DPS. The cap bonus and the fatal strike, like the fatal strike impact is still felt because it is a very noticeable increase even when you're not hitting caps naturally. But not having it isn't the end of the world. He's still able to out DPS other DPS on this type of fight, where the boss is going to have a massive defense and then he just gets by on strength. I mean, before I was using him, I was using another character that was just very disappointing in terms of his cap potential. He didn't have a paid that made him less disappointing. Not disappointing. If you have his paid, he is not disappointing at all. He is actually the highest DPS we have in the game, sustained. There are characters that have higher DPS, but only for a very short burst window. But before him, I was using this dude, Diaz. And it's the same reason. He has a very similar setup where if he has swords equipped, he gets a massive strength bonus, and you can get him up to 50 to 100k strength. And it just guarantees that he's going to cap. His skills are kind of god awful. Like, everything about him is bad, but when every other character you can take to the fight is not hitting cap damage, and then he does hit cap damage, it doesn't matter that his caps are pretty low for when he released. It doesn't matter that his skill animations are ass, like complete ass. Like, his best skill being this one, he sits there and waves. If you haven't seen the character, he waves his sword in a full circle and then does a slash, and it's a very slow animation. It pulls in mobs. It's bad. And then this one is just a typical dash, and you kind of just spam this one and don't use this one if you can avoid it. He was my unit for these fights, and it's just because of his strength. Strength is worthless if the enemy has low defense. You don't need any strength at all. If the enemy has high defense or high defense buffs, it doesn't matter how much you boost your elemental damage. When you go from 400% to 480%, it's 0.8, not even 0.8. It's, at that point, due to diminishing returns, you're looking at 20% more total damage. And then if you just increase your strength by double, which is very achievable, since most of the time you're not using strength passives, you've doubled your potential damage. The same logic applies everywhere, it's just diminishing returns. But the key difference is when you increase your strength, you do not get caps, and when you increase your elemental damage or other sources of multipliers, you do get caps. So, typical builds are going to focus on increasing multipliers. For these fights, you need to focus on strength. And that is where he shines. Joshua is actually a very good unit in this type of content. Everywhere else, he's usable. He's not going to be the character you pick. I said it before, Shaltir does more DPS than he does without the paid. Unless you get really lucky on Fatal Strikes. And her kit is also better suited to general content. His tower, the hard tower, is another place where he actually is very nice. It's very nice to have. Some of the bosses, his biggest weakness is that he can be flinched, and Shaltir cannot be flinched while attacking, so the fact that she has higher burst potential and she can get that burst out without any disruptions makes her win out unless you have his paid, where he does just do more damage. He does about her burst window damage non-stop. So yeah, I just wanted to dive back into him and give him a more fair coverage. He still is a character that has a huge amount of his power locked behind that paid. Like, I was not wrong on that. I overestimated how much of the power was locked behind the paid. I kind of just neglected his base damage entirely for my hyperbolic 100% estimate. He's got good base damage, he's got good base caps, but even then, he's still heavily gimped if you don't get that paid. And if you like him, he is usable. Again, I was a little harsher than I should have been on him in terms of his pull value. I would still say don't pull him. Wait for a unit that's not going to be completely gimped if you don't get the paid, or get his paid. If you get his paid, you're going to have a unit that has value probably long term. You're going to have the Shell tier of this year. He's going to still be dealing great damage next year. I mean, a lot of characters do continue to do good damage, but he is going to be top tier damage until next year, unless we see some ridiculous power creep with the next unit. So, I'll leave it there. He has value. He isn't as gimped by not getting his pay, but he still is gimped by not getting his pay. Anyway, later.